I think.
Hello, this is Fabian and Sunjung talking about maintenance mode, the user journey, for the benefit of anybody who's listening, but in particular the Geo team who should view this. So we'll try to be brief. Let me quickly share my screen. There. So what we tried to just quickly lay out, we just finished a POC, thanks to Valeri's superpowers, of how maintenance mode could work. And we just wanted to sort of draw out how the journey actually looks for a systems administrator and a regular admin. And yeah, let's maybe start at the start. It's usually a good point to start. You want to do it, Sandra? No? Okay, I'll start. So the first thing that we believe would happen is you're a systems administrator and you want to, for example, perform a planned failover, which is the scenario that we're particularly interested in. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to decide on a time window, right, when you want to do that for whatever reason. You may need to send out emails, right, because you may end up having a specific amount of downtime. So you need to inform your users. We're not really tackling this right now. And then, like when all of this is done, you're going to log into the GitLab UI on the primary node. You go to the admin settings. You would select maintenance mode. You schedule the time for maintenance. You could also essentially activate it now. That's an option in the current design, but you can schedule the time. And then you have to actually create a deploy page message. So this is the message that would be shown to users when they attempt to actually navigate to the, the page, the like web UI. And then you ultimately enable maintenance mode. And what happens is when maintenance mode is enabled, from a user perspective, is the following. So the first thing is if a user, a regular software developer, navigates to the web UI, they will see a maintenance page. And we should provide a sort of a default that actually explains what is to be expected. So like obviously the duration of this period, the reason for it, which is in our case a planned failover, but it may be another use case as well. And we should explain that they can't actually access the regular web UI at the moment. They will not be able to write to the API, but they can still read it, and they can continue to essentially pull data down for Git, but they're again not able to actually perform any write operations. So from the command line, software developer, they can still clone. That would work. When they push any changes, that would fail, and we probably need to provide some kind of message explaining why they can't do that. The same really for the API. So that's the user behavior we anticipate in the beginning for the maintenance mode. And then for our planned failover, essentially, and we are still working on making this simpler, but essentially what would happen and what we think is you would enable maintenance mode, and now we can essentially wait until the primary and the secondary are fully in sync. That's something you can check on the Geo administrator panel. You would still need to ensure that you have backups of all of the other data types that are not replicated. Then a systems administrator needs to log into the secondary to verify this and proceed essentially after that with the planned failover, which is a long sequence of commands. Not that long, but you would have to do it. Then you promote the secondary to the primary. After that, when you've done this, you also need to update the DNS records. So essentially, users will be able to navigate to the new primary, which was your secondary. And one question that actually we had is, given that we've now swapped around, essentially, right, our secondary is the primary, the maintenance mode that we enabled on the old primary should now still be enabled, on the new one. So folks will still not be able to actually make any changes. So we now need to actually disable maintenance mode. And after that, the primary would be back, the new primary would be back to normal. And when we do this, essentially the downtime, the proper downtime for users would come in somewhere here, right? Where we are promoting the secondary to the primary and we are swapping out addresses. At that point, access may cease for a little while. But for like the most part, you know, users should be at least able to, you know, like clone stuff. They won't be able to navigate to the web UI in the first iteration. That's kind of how we see it at the moment. And so this is, I think, what we're trying to achieve. It would be great to get some feedback on it, or if there are any errors in our current thinking. Anything you would like to add?
No, not really.
Super.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's it. I'm going to like stop this, and I'm going to stop the recording.